Hello, everyone, and welcome to another presentation here at the Georgia Department of Education Community for Music Technology. It's the end of the year. No bow tie this time. Feeling good. Things are coasting to the end. I hope you guys have had a good year. I hope that some of what you've seen in the community since January has been helpful to you and useful. It's been fun for me to kind of reflect on these topics and begin to envision how to present information that I know about this. And I really have loved the feedback that some of you have been giving by responding to the messages. It's been really good. We've gotten some good conversations started. I'm hoping that maybe as you head into the summer and you're thinking about your plans, that maybe you go back and rewatch some of these and we generate even more conversation and banter back and forth throughout the summer. I think there's some really good things. I know some colleagues and I the other day had a fantastic chat message started up about assessment and using rubrics and all of that kind of stuff. And I really hope that that kind of communication can eventually exist here in this community so that we can share ideas and get to know one another better and just in general be a stronger set of teachers for our students in music technology, because it's such a cool new thing. I say new, it's been around a while now, but really now, especially because of COVID, this idea is super taking off with potential. So I just wanted to drop some helpful information here about maybe some end of the year go-to projects. These are certainly things that I use in my classroom at the end of the year. It just heightens that student interest and make things really fun and intriguing for the students to be able to keep their mindset engaged at the end of the school year. So this is really where I try to break out the fun stuff and let them explore. I will say that these generally get pretty good response from students. So projects to explore at the end of the semester. The school that I'm at, we actually teach on an AB block. So, or not an AB block, a 4x4 block, I should say. So at Christmas, I get a whole new set of students. So I actually get to do these projects twice a year. Maybe it works out for you. Maybe it doesn't. But I think these are best done in May. So my first go-to project for the end of the school year. This always comes up after the students have learned about harmony. So as the students begin to understand what a chord is, how that chord is structured, different things like that, then I begin to help them understand how the chords create emotion. So the goal here is for them to go out into the wide worlds of the interweb, find a speech or monologue that really fits something that they want to say. So I have people choose the Martin Luther King speech. The JFK space race speech is kind of popular, surprisingly. Stuff that Kobe Bryant said, not really looking for it to be an exact, like, this is the end-all, be-all speech that defines blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have to be that famous. I've had people pull monologues from anime movies. I've had students use poetry by Maya Angelou or various other artists and writers from around the world. I really just want the students to connect with the words that they're saying. It's so vitally important for this project as an SEL piece, if nothing else, that they are able to read and connect with a piece of literature, or it could be a speech that was just given as a speech on YouTube. With the recent events of Black Lives Matter, there have been so many people that have delivered speeches, maybe not handwritten speeches, but delivered those speeches on YouTube, and I am certainly okay with those students using that. Again, I just want them to connect with the material. I have had students do things from Shakespeare before, so that's kind of cool. So, number one, they need to find themselves a speech or some literature that they are passionate about. Number two, they are going to voice act that speech. Now, it's important that you tell the students they are voice acting, not reading. Reading a speech is boring. No, 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 no. We do not want the reading of the speech. Ever since I started using the term voice acting with this project, the final result has increased in quality tenfold. Like when the students know that they have to get in there and be animated about it and really deliver a fiery speech, they get a lot more into it. So they track themselves reading the emotion of the speech, and then they're using Western diatonic harmony, the basic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chords. We leave 7 chords out because there's no damsel in distress tied to a railroad track. So use major and minor chords to create a progression where one chord lasts approximately one measure. That's just a good way for them to get on board with it. But the goal of the progression that they create is to enhance the emotion of the speech. So these are some of my parameters that I recommend for the project. It needs to be at least 90 seconds long. Now, that does not mean that my students have to speak for 90 straight seconds. Maybe they want to speak and then let the music carry a little bit of the weight, and then speak and let the music emphasize the emotion, speak, and alternate back and forth. That's totally fine. I don't have a problem with that. They don't have to speak for 90 minutes, definitely not 90 minutes straight. They don't have to speak for 90 seconds straight, but the whole project needs to be at least 90 seconds long. Now, I will say, generally, these projects go closer to like 3 or 4 minutes just because the students really get into it, but it's just a side note. They do need to voice act the speech. It must include a sustained harmony track. This is where those Western harmonies come in, and you just have a nice sustained sound riding underneath the vocal part. And then they need to include some arpeggiated or bounced block chords on the white keys. So they need to have something that preferably the same set of chords, hopefully, and then maybe in an octave up they're arpeggiated or something. And then include a bass line. Include a percussion track of some kind. Not the whole time necessarily, but somewhere it needs to have some percussion. Some melody needs to go in there. And it cannot just be the same 5 tracks looped over and over and over again throughout the entire duration of the project. That is boring. So they need to be able to remove ideas, add ideas, change the combination of ideas. That always helps develop more interesting music and hopefully build to a climax moment in the music. They must also use the tools and instruments that they've learned throughout the semester, like panning and automation and different effects, to create a complete package. These are the Georgia Standards for Excellence that this project really seems to hone in and nail out really, really well. So there's a chance for you to read those and understand, like, this fits in multiple standards and integrates really well with the concepts that we're learning in music technology. And it's a really good opportunity for the students to get a chance to use their speech making skills and their skills with a microphone to record high quality audio, hopefully, depending on what their setup is. So I would like to switch over now and actually give you an opportunity to see a few of these projects in action. So this is one of my students' projects delivering a speech. Here we go.
Potentially angry with me, and my whole world crashes. I'm the worst person in the world. Everything I have become is unbearable. I am awful and I must change. I like someone. I'm obsessed with them. They must adore me the way I adore them. We will be best friends. This is the start of something ginormous, and I'll look back on this first revelation and we'll laugh at our journey. Someone gives me advice or shares an idea. I research it like crazy and decide this will be the thing that changes me. I say goodbye to something in my life and mark it as a giant chapter, a pillar of experience, and I mourn as if a part of me has died. Maybe I just start waking up an hour earlier, and I start dreaming of my new life as an early bird, someone who wakes up to watch the sunrise and goes swimming as a way to introduce the day. Today, I watered flowers, and was convinced this was a turning point in my life. I dreamed of the changes being a morning gardener would bring, and how I'd tell struggling people of the way that filling up a watering can as part of a routine saved my brain. I've been called dramatic. Why does every little thing they go through have to be some monstrous event? They're so pretentious. Chill out. Yeah, it's exhausting. I have the highest of highs and lowest of lows, crashing in moments of despair and agony, and then soaring up to incredible epiphanic peaks of life, where suddenly all of the pain and hardship makes sense. Sometimes it's unbearable. And yet, I watch people do things like make sensible decisions and walking away from bad relationships because, in the long run, it'll be better, while I continue to damage myself and write about it, oddly addicted to the excitement of intensified emotions, be they happy or sad. So, though I don't choose to feel so much all the time, and though it can be ridiculous and incredibly painful, I'm proud of it. I'm excited, I'm reckless, I'm terrified, and because I can hurt so much, I can love so deeply.
So that's a really cool project that this young lady did. Super cool way that she developed into the climax, used the space in the middle to bring the energy back down and emphasize the main point there. I'm going to go ahead and listen to one more as well so you get another idea.
Surrender to quantum consciousness, which gave us all that we be. Can't you see? And it is all for free. Your soul, your mind, your heart, your body, your potentiality, your actuality, your spirituality, your reality. We get it all for free, so why can't we give it all back easily? Surrender. Surrender to quantum consciousness, which gave us all that we be. Can't you see? And it is all for free. Your soul, your mind, your heart, your body, your potentiality, your actuality, your spirituality, your reality. We get it all for free, so why can't we give it all back easily? Surrender.
So again, that's just a really neat way to go about doing the project for making a speech and monologue and supporting it with music. It's much more interesting when you hear it with the music, I think. Okay, so my next project that I get into, these, I'm not going to lie, they either go really well or they're terrible. But no matter what, the students have fun making them. So in this project, the students are to use the vocal stems of a popular song, and a lot of these vocal stems can actually be found on YouTube. So if you have some kind of converter to go from YouTube to MP3, you can definitely go about that. And then they're to use their skills to make a remix of the song that's interesting and new. They're not making a cover. They're not trying to recreate the song as it already exists, which is another fun project for sure. But I really want them to get in and use their audio editing and manipulation skills here to make something new and unique. I always tell them, I'm giving you the ingredients for a chocolate chip cookie. I need you to make something that's not a chocolate chip cookie. So, they get to further their skills in Western harmony while they're doing this. They get to further their rhythmic skills because they have to figure out how to make the beat line up. And really, that's probably the number one thing that they actually have to do in this project is if they're successful at importing and beat matching a vocal stem, then the rest of the project seems to go pretty well. If they can't ever figure out how to get the vocal track matched to the beat and with the downbeat on the downbeat of the DAW, then it can be pretty tricky. But I use a website called all8.com to be able to tap out tempos. You can use websites like TuneBat to see what the internet says the tempo already is to begin with. So once they get that audio, like I said, from YouTube, or if you have access to a program like RX8 by iZotope, you can actually go in and scrub all the music and leave just the vocal track. We've actually had a lot of success with that in our program. So then you can split and reorder the audio clips in different ways. Of course, maintaining rhythmic integrity is important. You can add audio effects like transposition and auto-tune and reverb and delay and distortion and compression and equalizing and all these different things. You can actually make them harmonize with themselves, which a lot of the kids really like to do. You can add drums, rhythmic interest devices like build-ups, risers, downers, drum fills, stop time, stuff like that to make it more interesting. Of course, I want them adding harmonies. I want them to see what a chord chart looks like. I want them to be able to analyze how to make those chords. And my general rule that I use when I'm talking with them about that is that when you go in and you want to make, say, like a D minor chord, the first note you need to add to the piano roll is a D. Duh, right? The first one you need is that root note. And then if it's a minor chord, I like to tell them it's a 3-4 formula. Go up 3 steps in the piano roll and drop in a note. That's the second note of the chord. Then go up 4 steps in the piano roll, place a chord, and that's your next note. So that's the 3-4 rule. That's what I use for minor chords. Major chords, I use the 4-3 rule. Same thing applies, just 4 steps first and then 3. And these kids are suddenly making harmonies all over the place, and it's great. And finally, I want them to censor dirty words. But the way that I generally tell them to censor dirty words is a little different than some. Of course, they should know how to split and just remove it. I like to split and reverse the word. I like that because it maintains rhythmic integrity most of the time, and it remains pitch integrity. So that instead of just having this blank space, it actually, you just flip the word backwards, which is not that hard in any of these programs, and you've got something that's new and different and useful and doesn't have dirty words in it. So that's one of those things. For the remix projects, a lot of standards, again, from the Georgia Standards of Excellence are present in the remix project. This is just a few of them that I think fit best with the remix project. And of course, I do want to get in and show you a few different options for how students have done these remixes. One is a little more high energy, and then the second one's going to be a little slower version of a remix. But this first one, this girl has taken vocal manipulation to the extremes, and I think you're going to really enjoy this project.
My blue jeans Met you at the shop, sun was getting hot, I'm lonely. Yeah. I'm in the city on my own. Never would've thought you'd be the one, I got a homie. That's the way it goes. I'm reaching Nirvana, goodbye sweet Rwanda. High school was never for me. Yeah, I say let it be, let it be. Forever's a long time. My blue jeans will last me all.
And for time's sake, I'm actually going to stop right there just to keep on moving. But I think you can see that she really took this vocal manipulation, especially at the beginning of the project, to just really cool levels, using different manipulations to create like stereo effect and movement, and just really cool. I'm impressed. And by the way, these are works in progress right now. These are not finished. These are actually not due for another 5 days or so in class, but these are two that I thought were really good and on their way to being something pretty cool. So I got one more that I want to play for you. This is a little slower version, so remixes don't have to be high energy and in your face and all over, but here is a little bit different job.
Oh, please, never fall in
And again, I'm going to stop that one right there for time's sake as we continue on. But the remixes are really just a fun way to go about exploring new music. Like I said, reading chord charts. I like Chordify.net. If you've never been to Chordify.net, it gives you the chords to a song, but in measures and beats for where the chords change. And it'll also show you what it looks like on piano. Pretty cool. Might want to check that out if you're doing this one. For my second level kids, my intermediate level kids, I like to do this project called Build a Sound System. And in this project, my students have to, quote, build and purchase all the stuff they need for a sound system that would fit one of 4 different scenarios, i.e. working with a home studio, a professional studio, a restaurant that wants to have live music, or an arena. And they must develop this all into a presentation to show what they would buy, as well as have a business plan to support how they would pay off their purchase. So that's an important part of this, I think, as well, as you're thinking about the music industry and all of that kind of stuff. So I want a PowerPoint or similar style presentation that will display all their information. I want a complete sound flow or signal flow diagram of their electronic setup that they plan to purchase, a diagram of how they plan to acoustically treat their space. They need to develop a company name and a logo, and then a 10 to 15 minute presentation in the end for how their business would work, the advantages, what gear they're going to use, and stuff like that. And for the Georgia Standards of Excellence, I think these two fit this project the best. It comes out of the intermediate level set of standards. And I just kind of want to, some of you might not be familiar with a signal flow diagram, so I just want to hop over and show you a signal flow diagram. This would be like a really good example of a signal flow diagram for me on this project, because all of the connections are labeled with what type of cord you would use to make specifically this happen. This would be my example for an arena. Now, there are some things that may be missing from this, and that's totally okay if you're okay with it, as long as they have the guts and the most important things that they would need. You've got your microphones, which connect to a digital snake in this case, which is being connected via Cat5 cable to the mixing board. It's a $20,000 mixing board that this person chose, with all sorts of digital effects and stuff like that. Wireless monitoring for the people that are on stage, a crossover system so that you can actually control highs, mids, and lows going to specific speakers, the amplifiers for those speakers, and the fact that you need subwoofers and speak-on wires to be safe when you're dealing with powered signals, all that kind of stuff. So this is really interesting. They get to see how expensive setting up the sound system for an arena is. Here would be like a restaurant setup with wireless microphones and active speakers for monitors for the musicians, passive speakers for the house with subs. A little bit different if you wanted to have a wired system where the wired microphones went into a snake. Again, active speakers for wedges, a crossover to get active subwoofers, and then passive speakers with an amp for the house as well. A home studio setup might look like this. Notice that there are arrows going the correct direction everywhere from the devices. This is two-way because this is USB communicating with the computer, both sending and receiving. So I think that's really important that they understand the direction that the signal is actually flowing. This would be more of a Pro Studio setup, which is probably the hardest one for the students to grasp. So you got microphones going into some kind of snake, and then there's a patch bay, which is communicating with any analog gear, as well as your audio interfaces, which are sending headphone information to your artists in the studio, as well as feedback information for the engineer in the booth. This is all communicating with a computer, as well as some kind of interface these days that's really not necessarily a recording interface, but more of a fancy controller to control the DAW itself. Seems to be the way a lot of professional studios are going these days. So this would just be an example of what they'd be looking like in a pro studio. And then, of course, their final project would come about with some sense of presentation to it that displayed their business sense as well. I really like these websites to be able to find the gear, and I just have the students do screenshots and the such to be able to grab that and put it in. Sweetwater.com, if you've never used them, one, best customer service in the business. Two, the in-sync section of their website is highly, highly informative. And a lot of times on this project, the students can actually search for a topic like best wireless microphones, and it'll give them a set of like 5 of the best wireless microphones that you can use, and tell them about it. And that way they're learning on the fly too, to be able to connect that knowledge to gear that they might one day need to purchase if they pursue a career in this. Again, that would be a signal flow diagram. I just showed you a whole bunch of them. And that's it. These are the things I think are kind of fun as end of the year wrap-up projects. I hope that you found these helpful, and maybe you can use them. I would love to hear what your go-to end of the year projects are. So in the discussion that goes along with this video, please throw out some ideas of what you do so that, hey, maybe I'll steal one of your ideas because it's a lot better than mine. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.